My name is Alexis Fairchild. I'm 28. At 6:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in October, I was standing in my sister's corner office on the 42nd floor of the Whitaker Maritime Building, watching her delete my name from a partnership agreement worth $14.3 million, while our parents nodded approval from her leather couch. This is theft, Caitlin. My voice came out steadier than I felt. You can't just erase me from my own work. She didn't even look up from her laptop. Your work? Sweetheart, you consulted for us. That makes everything you touched Whitaker property. She clicked twice. My name vanished. There. Much cleaner. I never consulted for Whitaker Maritime. I showed you my system as a sister. At Sunday dinner. You asked to see what I'd been building and you presented it in our conference room. Mom's voice cut across mine like ice. Using our projector. That constitutes professional consultation, Alexis. Our lawyers agree. I turned to Dad. He was examining his cufflinks. Dad, you know this isn't true. Value Core was my thesis project at Stanford. I started building it 3 years before that dinner. I have patent filings from— What you have, Caitlin interrupted, is a choice. Sign the NDA and the transfer agreement, or we file for injunctive relief claiming you violated conflict of interest provisions by developing competing technology while employed as a family consultant. She finally looked at me. Her smile was cold. Either way, Value Core becomes ours. This way is just faster. My hands started shaking. I pressed them flat against my thighs. I was never employed by you. I never signed any conflict of interest agreement. This is extortion. This is family obligation. Mom stood, smoothing her Chanel skirt. Whitaker Maritime has been struggling. Your sister's trying to save our legacy, and you're being selfish about some little app. Some little app? My voice cracked. I hated that it did. Value Core has 8-figure revenue projections. I have partnerships with agencies up and down the East Coast. There's a letter of intent for a national consortium rollout. This isn't some hobby project, Mom. This is my company, which you built using insights from our industry. Caitlin closed her laptop. The yacht valuation market? That's Whitaker territory. Has been for 37 years. You don't just waltz in with your Stanford degree and claim innovation. I didn't waltz in. I created something new. AI-powered valuation using photo analysis, engine logs, market data. None of that existed in your world until I built it. Threaded valuation layers. Dad spoke for the first time. That was your term? I blinked. Yes. It's the core framework of how Value Core— Funny. Caitlin opened a folder on her desk, slid a presentation deck across to me. Because we've been using that exact term in our pitch materials for 6 months, along with your charts, your terminology, your visual framework. She tapped the cover page. All credited to Whitaker Maritime Innovation Division. My stomach dropped. I flipped through the deck, page after page of my work, my language, my diagrams, the 3-tier assessment model I'd spent 18 months developing, the visual interface I'd designed. Even the color scheme was identical. You stole this. My throat felt like sandpaper. You took everything I showed you and— We adapted consultant materials for client presentations. Mom's tone was final. Perfectly legal. What's not legal is you continuing to market identical technology under a competing brand, hence the NDA. I don't have a competing brand. I have my own company, which predates your presentations by 3 years. Prove it. Caitlin leaned back in her chair. Because our lawyers will prove consultation. They'll prove family employment relationship. They'll prove you had fiduciary duty to Whitaker interests. She paused. And they'll prove you violated all of it. Before I go on, if stories about standing up for yourself mean something to you, please hit like and subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now and what time is it there. I looked at my parents. Really looked at them. Dad was checking his phone. Mom was reapplying lipstick in her compact mirror. Neither of them would meet my eyes. You're really going to let her do this? I asked them. You're going to let Caitlin steal 3 years of my life? We're going to let her save the family business. Mom snapped the compact shut. Something you should want too, if you cared about this family at all. I do care. That's why I. Then sign. Dad finally looked at me. Sign the transfer, sign the NDA, and we can all move forward. Caitlin's already integrated your work into our operations. Reversing it now would cost us millions. Be reasonable, Alexis. Reasonable. I'd heard that word my entire life. Be reasonable. Don't make waves. Think of the family. I'd been reasonable when Caitlin got the trust fund and I got student loans. Reasonable when she got the VP title and I got told to find my own path. Reasonable when they paid for her wedding at the plaza and gave me $500 toward my courthouse ceremony. And if I don't sign? I asked. Then you'll make everyone uncomfortable. Mom's voice had that edge it always got when I pushed back. You'll force us to take legal action against you, against our own daughter. Think about how that looks. Caitlin was watching me with something like satisfaction. Clock's ticking, little sister. Our lawyers file at 9 a.m. tomorrow. You have until midnight to decide, family or lawsuits. I picked up my bag. My hands were still shaking, but my voice came out clear. I need time to think. You have 14 hours. Caitlin glanced at her Cartier watch. Use them wisely. I walked out of that office at 7:23 p.m. The elevator ride down 42 floors took 98 seconds. I counted every one. My face burned so hot I could feel my pulse in my teeth, but I didn't cry. I wouldn't give them that. I didn't know it then, but that elevator ride was the last time I'd see any of them for 6 months. And the last time I'd try to be reasonable. The drive home was 34 minutes through rush hour traffic. I white-knuckled the steering wheel the whole way, replaying the conversation, the way Caitlin had smiled, the way Mom had examined her lipstick while threatening legal action, the way Dad hadn't even bothered to pretend he cared. My apartment felt too quiet. I lived in a converted warehouse space in the East Village. 1 bedroom, exposed brick, 1,100 square feet, that I'd been so proud of when I signed the lease. First place that was completely mine. Now it felt like a cage. I pulled out my laptop and opened my secure server. Value Core was there. Every line of code, every algorithm, every dataset I'd spent 3 years compiling. My patent applications filed 17 months ago. My development logs, time-stamped and backed up daily. My advisor notes from Stanford clearly documenting the original thesis proposal from my master's program doctor. Kendra Voss had written in my recommendation letter. Alexis Fairchild's work on AI-assisted valuation frameworks represents genuinely novel thinking in maritime asset assessment. Her threaded layer approach has no precedent in current industry practice. That letter was dated April 2021. 2 full years before I'd shown Caitlin anything. I had proof. Mountains of it. The question was whether proof mattered when you were fighting people who owned the lawyers. My phone buzzed. Text from Caitlin. Midnight, don't forget. Then another from Mom. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. We love you. I set the phone face down and opened a bottle of wine. Drank 1 glass standing at my kitchen counter, then another sitting on my fire escape, watching the city lights blur. At 11:47 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Alexis Fairchild? The voice was male, professional, slightly apologetic. My name is Marcus Chen. I'm a reporter with the Wall Street Journal's technology section. I got your name from a source at the National Marine Consortium. Do you have a minute? I sat up straight. How did you get my number? Your presentation at the Maritime Innovation Summit last June. You listed it on your speaker bio. He paused. I'm working on a story about AI disruption in traditional industries. Your Value Core platform kept coming up in my research. I was hoping to interview you about the development process, maybe get a demo. I looked at my phone. 11:51 p.m., 9 minutes until Caitlin's deadline. Mr. Chen, I said slowly, what if I told you there's a better story about what happens when traditional industries try to steal that disruption? There was a pause. I could hear typing. I'm listening. At 11:58 p.m., I sent Caitlin a text. No. Just that. 1 word. Then I spent the next 4 hours on the phone with Marcus Chen, walking him through everything. Patent filing dates, development logs, my Stanford thesis timeline. The dinner where I'd shown Caitlin my work as family sharing, not professional consultation. The copied presentation decks. The threatened lawsuit. The demand for IP transfer. "Do you have documentation for all of this?" he asked. "Every single piece. Time-stamped, backed up, verified by my thesis advisor." "And they're threatening to sue you for developing your own technology?" "They're threatening to claim I violated a consultancy agreement that doesn't exist." I pulled up the email thread. "I can send you the entire communication record. Not one mention of employment, consultancy, or confidentiality until yesterday when they needed a legal framework for theft." More typing. "Would you be willing to go on record?" I thought about that elevator ride, about being reasonable, about 14 hours to surrender everything I'd built. "Yes," I said, "I'll go on record." "And your sister, Caitlin Whitaker, VP at Whitaker Maritime, she's been presenting your frameworks as company innovation?" With my exact terminology, my visual designs, even my color schemes, I can provide side-by-side comparisons. "Jesus," he exhaled. "Alexis, this is bigger than I thought. This isn't just IP appropriation. This is a family systematically exploiting their daughter's work to cover failing business performance. That's a hell of a story." "It's my life," I said quietly. "I know. I'm sorry." His voice softened. "Look, I need to verify everything independently. Talk to your advisor, examine the patent timeline, review the presentation materials. If everything checks out the way you're describing, I'd like to run this story. But I need you to understand. Once this goes public, there's no taking it back. Your family will know you talked to me." I looked around my apartment, at my desk where I'd built Value Core, at my bookshelf full of marine engineering texts, at my Stanford diploma on the wall. "They already know I won't surrender," I said. "Run the story." The lawsuit arrived at 9:14 a.m. the next morning. Courier delivered 47 pages, naming me as defendant in Whitaker Maritime, LLC versus Alexis Fairchild for breach of fiduciary duty, misappropriation of trade secrets, and tortious interference with business relationships. I read it sitting on my floor. They were claiming I'd been a paid consultant since 2021, that I'd signed verbal confidentiality agreements, that ValueCore was developed using proprietary Whitaker methodologies and therefore belonged to them. They were seeking $8.2 million in damages, plus injunctive relief to cease all ValueCore operations. Every single claim was false. But defending against false claims still costs money. Money I didn't have. I called my cousin Nolan that afternoon. He was the only family member who'd stayed in touch after I'd stopped attending Whitaker functions. We met at a coffee shop in Brooklyn. "They're really suing you?" He stared at the lawsuit. "Over your own work?" "They need ValueCore to save the company. Bookings are down 40% year over year. Their valuation model is stuck in 1987. My AI system is the only competitive edge they've got, except it's mine, not theirs." Nolan flipped through pages. "This is insane. You have proof it's yours, right? Patent filings, development logs, thesis documentation, advisor verification, everything time-stamped from before I ever showed them anything. Then why are they—" He stopped. "Oh, they're not trying to win. They're trying to make you run out of money before trial." Bingo. I took a sip of cold coffee. "Defense costs will drain me. They know I can't afford a prolonged fight, so I'll be forced to settle on their terms just to survive." "That's evil. That's Caitlin." I closed the lawsuit. "She's been using my frameworks in her pitch presentations for 6 months. I have proof of that too, actually. She showed me the deck herself when she was threatening me." Nolan went very still. "She showed you the stolen presentation? Used it to prove how they'd adapted my work. Didn't even try to hide it." "Alexis," he leaned forward, "do you still have access to those presentations?" "No. She showed me a physical copy in her office. I didn't get pictures or—" "I did." Nolan pulled out his phone. "Last month, Caitlin asked me to sit in on a client pitch. She was desperate to show the family she had everything under control. I was there when she presented Whitaker's revolutionary threaded valuation system. He scrolled through his photos. I took pictures of the slides because I thought the terminology sounded familiar, like something you'd mentioned at Christmas. He handed me his phone. There it was. My work, my frameworks, my visual language, presented as Whitaker Maritime Innovation, developed 2023. Can I have these? My voice came out hoarse. I'll airdrop them right now. He started transferring files. Alexis, you need to destroy them with this. I'm trying. I'm talking to a reporter at the Wall Street Journal. If I can get enough evidence verified, he'll run the story. When? I don't know. He's still fact-checking everything. Nolan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression changed. Speaking of Caitlin, group text from Mom, you're not going to like this. He showed me the screen. Family announcement, your father and I are celebrating our 35th wedding anniversary with an intimate gathering on November 18th at the Stamford Marina. Elite guests only. We're keeping this sophisticated and comfortable. Caitlin is coordinating. Details to follow. Below that, a separate text to just Nolan and their other cousins. Please don't mention this to Alexis. She'll make everyone uncomfortable given the current legal situation. We think it's best if she sits this one out. I read it twice. The words didn't change. They're disinviting you from their anniversary? Nolan looked genuinely shocked. Because you won't surrender your own company? Elite guests only, I said flatly. I guess daughters who insist on owning their own work don't make the cut. That's not family, that's a business alliance. It's always been a business alliance. I just kept pretending it was family. I handed his phone back. November 18th, that's 5 weeks away. You're not seriously thinking about… No. I finished my coffee. I won't show up where I'm not wanted, but I can make sure the truth shows up instead. Over the next 4 weeks, I worked with Marcus Chen to build an airtight story. We verified every claim. Dr. Kendra Voss provided a notarized statement confirming my thesis timeline and the originality of my threaded valuation approach. My Stanford program director produced emails from 2021 discussing my work. The U.S. Patent Office confirmed my filing dates, all preceding any Whitaker presentations. Marcus obtained Whitaker Maritime's investor presentations from 2022 and 2023. The contrast was stark. 2022, traditional valuation methods, declining market share, no innovation mentioned. 2023, revolutionary AI-powered valuation system, using my exact frameworks, presented as internal development. They didn't even change your terminology, Marcus said during one of our calls. It's copy-paste theft. They thought they could get away with it because I'm family. Family doesn't sue family. Family doesn't go public. Family stays quiet and takes the loss. You're not staying quiet. No, I said. I'm not. The lawsuit ground forward. Whitaker's lawyers filed motion after motion, each one costing me money I didn't have. I'd burned through $23,000 in legal fees by mid-November. My lawyer was good but blunt. They're bleeding you dry. If this goes to trial, you're looking at $200,000 minimum. Do you have that? No. Then we need to talk settlement. No settlement. I didn't steal from them. I won't pay them for stealing from me. Alexis, I admire your principles, but principles don't pay legal bills. If you can't fund a defense, I'll find a way. I hung up, but I was drowning. I'd taken on freelance development work, coding 16-hour days to cover rent and legal fees. I'd stopped sleeping more than 4 hours a night. My apartment was littered with coffee cups and legal documents and half-eaten takeout. On November 15th, 3 days before my parents' anniversary gala, Marcus Chen called. We're running the story, he said. November 18th, 6 a.m. digital edition, front page of the technology section, full exposure, your timeline, their theft, the lawsuit, everything. I'm giving you a heads up because once this publishes, your life is going to change very fast. What's the headline? When family business means stealing from family, How a tech founder's own sister hijacked her innovation. We've got side-by-side comparisons, patent documentation, expert analysis. It's bulletproof, Alexis. They can't spin their way out of this one. November 18th, 6 a.m. The same day as the gala. The timing was almost poetic. "Thank you," I said, "for believing me. Thank you for trusting me. This is important work. People need to know that IP theft doesn't just happen to corporations. It happens to individuals, to families who weaponize love to justify exploitation." He paused. "Are you ready for the fallout?" "I've been ready since I said no." The morning of November 18th, I woke up at 5:30 a.m. Couldn't sleep anyway. Made coffee. Sat on my fire escape watching the sky turn from black to gray to pale blue. At 5:58, I refreshed the Wall Street Journal homepage. Nothing. 5:59. Nothing. 6 a.m. The page loaded. There it was. Top of the technology section, with my photo next to Caitlin's corporate headshot. When family business means stealing from family, how a tech founder's own sister hijacked her innovation to save a failing company. I read the whole thing sitting there in the cold. Marcus had done beautiful work, every detail verified, every timeline confirmed. Side-by-side screenshots of my patent filings versus Whitaker's presentations, Dr. Voss's statement, Nolan's photos of the copied pitch deck, my development logs, the fake consultancy claims, the threatened lawsuit, the family pressure to surrender. And in the center of it all, a pull quote from Caitlin's own email to me. "Value core becomes ours. This way is just faster." My phone started ringing at 6:14 a.m. Unknown numbers, reporters probably. I let them go to voicemail. Then LinkedIn notifications started flooding in, support messages, interview requests, people in tech who'd had similar experiences with family businesses. At 7:23, Dr. Voss called. "Alexis, I just read the journal piece. I'm so sorry you went through this alone. You should have told me sooner. I didn't want to drag you into family drama." "This isn't drama. This is theft, and I'm proud of you for fighting back. Whatever you need, testimony, documentation, anything, I'm here." At 8:45, my lawyer called. "Have you seen the news?" "I'm in it." "Well, Whitaker's lawyers have seen it too. I just got a very frantic call asking to discuss settlement options. They're in damage control mode." "Tell them I'm not interested." "Alexis, they sued me for $8.2 million for developing my own technology. They tried to bleed me dry. Now the world knows what they did. I'm not giving them an easy exit." At 10:30, Marcus Chen texted, "Stories gone viral, 400,000 views, trade publications picking it up. Your sister's firm is getting destroyed in the comments." I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt empty. This wasn't victory. This was just the truth finally being loud enough to hear. At 4 p.m., I got a text from Nolan. "You're the only one not here who won." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "The gala. It's a disaster. Half the guests canceled this morning. The ones who showed up are all talking about the article. Mom and Dad are pretending everything's fine, but you can see the cracks. Caitlin's locked in the yacht cabin fielding calls from investors. They're panicking, Alexis. You did it." I walked to my window, looked out at the city. Somewhere 43 miles northeast, my family was standing on a decorated yacht at a private marina in Stamford, surrounded by champagne and string quartets and elite guests who now knew exactly what kind of people the Whitakers really were. "Send me a picture," I typed. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. The photo showed the yacht deck lit up with white lights, guests in formal wear clustered in uncomfortable groups, my parents standing rigid near the bow. And in the background, visible through the cabin window, Caitlin on her phone, face tight with stress. The caption, "Elite guests only, but elite reputation, gone." At 6:47 p.m., exactly 24 hours after I'd walked out of Caitlin's office, my mother called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "Alexis." Her voice was controlled, but I could hear the fracture underneath. We need to talk about this article. No, we don't. You went to the press about family business. Do you have any idea how this looks? I know exactly how it looks. It looks like IP theft, because that's what it is. We offered you a reasonable settlement. You offered me extortion. Sign away my company or face a bogus lawsuit. That's not settlement, that's coercion. Your sister was trying to save the business. We're family, Alexis. We're supposed to support each other. Something hard and cold settled in my chest. Support works both ways, Mom. I supported you for 28 years. Stayed quiet when Caitlin got everything and I got excuses. Stayed quiet when you chose her version over mine every single time. Stayed quiet when you paid for her plaza wedding and gave me $500. I stayed quiet so much I almost forgot I had a voice. So you used it to destroy us publicly? I used it to tell the truth. The fact that the truth destroyed you says more about your choices than mine. Silence, then. The lawsuit is dropped. Our lawyers will file dismissal paperwork Monday. Good. It was fraudulent anyway. And we'd like to discuss a fair licensing agreement for ValueCore's technology. No. Alexis, be reasonable. I tried reasonable. Reasonable got me stolen work and a lawsuit. Now I'm trying something new. Boundaries. I took a breath. ValueCore is mine. My code, my patents, my company. You don't get to use it, license it, or benefit from it, ever. Those are my terms. You're making a mistake. No, Mom. I'm correcting one. For 28 years, I let you define my value by how useful I was to Whitaker interests. I'm done. My value isn't negotiable anymore. I hung up. My hands were shaking again, but this time it felt different. Not fear, not anger, something cleaner. The next morning, the trade publications ran follow-up stories. Whitaker Maritime faces investor backlash over IP theft allegations. Tech founder Alexis Fairchild's David versus Goliath story resonates with industry. Family-run businesses face scrutiny after WSJ expose. By Monday, Whitaker Maritime's stock had dropped 18%. Three major clients had suspended contracts pending ethics review. Caitlin had stepped down from her VP position to focus on family matters. I didn't celebrate. I just got back to work. Over the next 6 months, ValueCore grew beyond anything I'd imagined. The publicity had been brutal but effective. Everyone in maritime tech now knew my name. Partnership offers came in from agencies I'd only dreamed of reaching. The national consortium deal closed in January with better terms than my original proposal. By March, I'd hired my first 3 employees. By May, we'd secured Series A funding at a $47 million valuation. By June, I'd moved into proper office space in Soho, 4,000 square feet with views of the Hudson. I never spoke to my parents again. They sent emails occasionally. Apologies that weren't really apologies. Requests to move past this without ever acknowledging what this actually was. I archived them all unread. Caitlin tried once, a LinkedIn message in February. I'm sorry for how things went. I was desperate and made terrible choices. I hope someday you can forgive me. I read it 3 times, then typed back. I don't need to forgive you. I just need you to stay out of my life. She never replied. In August, almost a year after that elevator ride, I stood in my office at 7 p.m., looking out at the city lights. My team had just closed the biggest partnership in ValueCore's history, a 5-year contract with a European maritime consortium worth 8 figures. We'd celebrated with champagne and takeout Thai food and terrible karaoke. Now it was quiet, just me and my laptop and the sound of the city humming below. My phone buzzed, text from Dr. Voss. Saw the announcement. So proud of you, Alexis. You built something remarkable. I smiled, typed back. Couldn't have done it without your early support. Thank you for believing in the work. Always believed in you, she replied. The work was just evidence. I set the phone down and opened my development logs. Value Core 2.0 was in beta, expanding beyond yachts into commercial vessels, cargo ships, luxury liners. The same threaded valuation framework, but evolved, smarter, more comprehensive. None of it existed at Whitaker Maritime. They tried to salvage the stolen presentations, but without the underlying code and algorithms, they had nothing but empty frameworks. Industry reviewers had called them out. Clients had walked. The company had restructured, laid off 40% of staff, and retreated to their traditional valuation model. They'd wanted my innovation to save them. Instead, refusing to surrender it had saved me. If you're watching this and you've ever had to choose between family approval and self-respect, I need you to know something. You don't owe anyone access to your value. Not your parents, not your siblings, not your blood relatives. Family isn't supposed to steal from you and call it love. Family isn't supposed to demand you sacrifice your dreams to save their failures. And if they do, you're allowed to say no. You're allowed to protect your work. You're allowed to walk away from people who only value you for what they can extract. If you've ever had to set boundaries with family who saw you as a resource instead of a person, type, "I chose myself" in the comments. Or if you're still trying to find the courage to walk away, type, "I'm learning." Both are brave. Both are valid. If this story meant something to you, check the description for more stories just like this one. Thank you for being here.